My name is Brooke Caldwell, and I never thought betrayal would announce itself in public, with witnesses, paperwork, and a name that wasn't mine. I didn't go to the school fundraiser expecting anything more dramatic than stale cookies and forced smiles. It was a Thursday night in the auditorium, folding chairs packed tight, parents buzzing about test scores and summer programs. I was halfway through a conversation with another mom about carpool schedules when I heard my husband's voice behind me. "The lease is already signed. Move-ins next week." I froze, not metaphorically. My body actually stopped responding for a beat too long. Nathan was supposed to be in Charlotte that night. A late client dinner. He'd kissed my cheek that morning and said he might not be back until after midnight. Yet there he was, 5 feet away, relaxed, confident, speaking like someone who had nothing to hide. I turned slowly, careful not to draw attention. He was standing near the refreshments table with 2 men from the donor board and a woman I recognized instantly. Not a stranger, not a faceless mistake. Her name was Erin Walsh, parent volunteer, always early, always helpful. The woman who had sat at my kitchen island last Christmas while I poured wine. The woman who had complimented my daughter's piano playing and said, "You're such a good mom." She was smiling now, leaning slightly toward him. One of the men chuckled. "You sure you're ready to juggle 2 places?" Nathan laughed. "It's not a juggling act if you plan ahead." "And your wife?" the other man asked casually. The word hit me like a dropped plate. Nathan didn't hesitate. "She doesn't need to know every logistical detail." Erin reached out and brushed invisible lint off his sleeve. A small gesture. Familiar. Possessive. "The name on the lease," she said, lowering her voice but not enough. "It looks permanent." Nathan smiled at her. Not the polite smile he used on clients. The one he used when he thought he was in control. "It is," he said. "Both names. No confusion." My ears rang. The room tilted, just slightly, like a camera losing focus. I stepped closer before I realized I was moving. "Both names?" I asked. Silence spread outward from us. Chairs creaked. Conversation stalled mid-sentence. Someone coughed. Nathan turned. His face drained so fast it was almost impressive. "Brooke," he started. I looked at Erin. "You're on a lease with my husband?" Her mouth opened, then closed. She glanced at Nathan, waiting for direction. "That's not how—" Nathan said, stepping forward. "This isn't the place." "Oh, it's exactly the place," I said. My voice didn't shake. That surprised me most. Parents had turned fully now. A few phones were already out, not recording, yet, but ready. "What lease?" I asked him. "What apartment?" He tried to lower his voice, reaching for my arm. I stepped back. "Don't," I said. Loud enough. Erin finally spoke. "Brooke, I'm sorry. You weren't supposed to find out like this." A ripple went through the room. "Find out what?" I asked her. "That you signed a lease with my husband? That you've been planning a life I didn't consent to?" "It's complicated," Nathan said quickly. "We were going to tell you." "When?" I asked. "After the first night you slept there? After you moved my money into something you didn't think I'd notice?" His eyes flicked away. Just for a second. That was all I needed. One of the board members cleared his throat. "Maybe we should—" "No," I said. "I'm good." I turned back to Nathan. "How long?" He swallowed. "That's not fair." "How long?" I repeated. Erin answered. 6 months. A mother in the front row gasped. Someone whispered my name. 6 months, while I packed lunches, while I sat through parent-teacher conferences alone, while I balanced budgets and trusted him when he said everything was fine. Nathan tried again. "Brooke, let's talk outside." I looked at him then. Really looked. The man I'd shared a bed with for 15 years. The man who'd promised stability, partnership, honesty. I felt something inside me click into place. Not rage, not grief, clarity. "I'm not walking out because I'm embarrassed," I said. "I'm walking out because I'm done pretending you didn't know exactly what you were doing." His mouth opened, closed. I turned to Erin. "You can have the apartment," I said calmly. enjoy it. Then I looked back at him. But you don't get my silence. And you don't get my confusion. You don't get to decide how this goes. Brooke, he said, voice cracking now. I picked up my purse, straightened my shoulders. This is the last time you'll ever catch me unprepared, I said. Everything from here on out is intentional. I walked down the aisle as people parted instinctively. I didn't run. I didn't cry. I didn't look back. Outside, the night air hit my lungs like a reset button. I sat in my car for a moment, hands steady on the wheel, heart beating slow and deliberate. I wasn't broken. I was focused. And as I pulled out of the parking lot, I made myself one promise. Clear, sharp, irreversible. He was going to regret every step he took without me. On the drive home that night, memory didn't come in order. It came in fragments. A look here. A sentence there. 15 years compressed into sharp, inconvenient truths I could no longer soften. Nathan and I met in our early 20s, back when ambition still sounded like hope instead of leverage. He was charming without trying, the kind of man who listened just long enough to make you feel chosen. I was the organized one, the planner, the person who remembered birthdays and deadlines and which bills were due on which days. Together, we made sense. At least that's what I told myself. We married young. Not impulsively, but confidently. Or so I thought. When our daughter Maya was born, everything shifted. Nathan dove deeper into work, chasing deals, commissions, momentum. I stepped back. Not because I had to, but because someone needed to be present, and he made it clear early on that it wouldn't be him. I told myself it was temporary, that partnerships flexed. They don't. They reveal. I turned down a promotion when Maya was 7 because it required travel. Nathan said it was the smart choice for our family. I believed him. When Maya struggled socially in middle school, I was the one meeting counselors, adjusting schedules, rearranging my entire life to keep her steady. Nathan sent encouraging texts from hotel rooms and congratulated me for handling things so well. That phrase followed me for years. Money was the one area Nathan always insisted on managing. He framed it as efficiency. He worked in commercial real estate, understood contracts, investments, tax structures. It made sense to let him take the lead. We had joint accounts, but he moved funds in and out of LLCs I didn't fully understand. Whenever I asked questions, he reassured me. It's all ours. I've got it handled. I trusted him because I wanted peace. Looking back, the warning signs weren't dramatic. They were subtle. Late nights that didn't align with his calendar. Calls taken outside. A new phone for work. Small irritations when I asked about his schedule. A defensiveness that I misread as stress. And then there was Erin. She entered our orbit quietly, through school committees, volunteer sign-ups, casual conversations at pickup. She was friendly, efficient, always available. I liked her because she made things easier. She offered to help with events, shared resources, praised Maya in ways that felt sincere. I never once suspected she was studying my life from the inside. There were moments now that replayed with brutal clarity. The time she lingered too long after dropping something off. The way Nathan's tone shifted when she was around. The private jokes I wasn't part of. I dismissed all of it because the alternative would have required action. The house was the real stake. Our home wasn't just a mortgage. It sat on land my mother had helped us purchase after her divorce. She'd given us a substantial down payment, insisting it stay in my name too, just in case. Nathan had smiled graciously at the time. Just in case. Maya was 13 now. Old enough to notice tension. Old enough to connect dots. I'd spent years protecting her from adult complications, believing stability mattered more than honesty. That belief collapsed the night of the fundraiser. When I pulled into our driveway, the lights inside were off. Nathan hadn't come home yet. I sat there longer than I needed to, staring at the front door, wondering how many times he'd walked through it knowing he was building a parallel life. Inside, everything looked the same. Shoes by the door, Framed photos on the wall. A life frozen mid-lie. I went upstairs and opened the file drawer in my office. The one I hadn't touched in years because Nathan had everything digitized. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for. I just knew I needed ground beneath my feet. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Maya. Are you home? Yes, I typed. She came downstairs quietly, her hair pulled back, face pale but composed. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, studying my expression. Dad's not answering me, she said. He will, I replied. Eventually. She nodded, then hesitated. Mom, I need to tell you something. My chest tightened. I've seen him with her, she said. Not kissing, just together, a lot. He said she was helping him with something. I didn't believe him. I closed my eyes for a moment. How long? I asked. Since winter, she said. I didn't want to hurt you. That was it. The last illusion shattered cleanly. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a phase. It wasn't stress. It was a choice. And now that choice had consequences. For him, for Aaron, and for the life they thought they were quietly stepping into. I reached across the table and took my daughter's hand. You didn't do anything wrong, I told her. But I was already doing the math. And this time, I wasn't going to let him plan the outcome alone. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was spiraling, but because my brain had switched modes. The part of me that used to smooth things over had gone quiet. In its place was something colder, sharper. The part that solves problems. By morning, I had a plan. I waited until Maya left for school before I moved. Not dramatically, not emotionally. I made coffee, fed the dog, and stood in the kitchen long enough to feel the weight of the house one last time. Then I went upstairs and pulled out a suitcase. I packed only what mattered. Legal documents first. My passport, Maya's birth certificate, the deed paperwork my mother had insisted I keep copies of. I photographed everything and uploaded it to a private drive Nathan didn't know existed. I didn't rush. Rushing leads to mistakes. At 9 sharp, I made my first call. The attorney didn't interrupt while I spoke. That told me everything I needed to know. When I finished, she said, "You're doing the right thing by calling before confronting him." "I'm not confronting him," I said. "I'm moving." She gave me a checklist. I followed it line by line. By noon, I had opened a new bank account in my name only. I redirected my paycheck. I froze the joint line of credit, temporarily, legally, with a single signature. I didn't drain anything. I didn't need to. I just needed to stop the bleed. Next, I called a realtor. Not to sell immediately, but to assess, to document value, to understand leverage. The house wasn't just emotional ground, it was strategic ground. While she talked, I walked through the rooms, noting what was mine, what was shared, what could be replaced, and what couldn't. I left everything that could be disputed. Furniture, decor, even the bed. Possessions were negotiable. Position was not. Nathan called at 2:14 p.m. I let it ring. He texted, "We need to talk. Please." I finished my checklist first. At 3, I packed Maya's essentials. Clothes, school laptop, her favorite hoodie. I explained calmly that we were staying somewhere else for a bit. I didn't blame. I didn't dramatize. I told her the truth in a way she could carry. "This isn't your mess," I said, "and you don't have to choose sides." She nodded, jaw tight, stronger than she knew. We left at 4. I didn't tell Nathan where we were going. He didn't need access to that information anymore. At 6, I finally answered his call. "Where are you?" he demanded, panic leaking through the edges of his control. "Safe," I said. "With our daughter." "You can't just take her," he said. "That's not how this works." "I can," I replied. "And legally, I already have." Silence. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Protecting myself," I said. "And her." "This is an overreaction," he snapped. "You're blowing everything up." "No," I said calmly. "You did that." I'm just making sure I'm not standing underneath it. He tried a different tone. Brooke, I made a mistake. A lease isn't a mistake, I said. It's a plan. Another pause. I could hear his breathing now. Faster. Uneven. We can fix this, he said. Just come home. There is no home, I replied. Not the way you mean it. You're being dramatic, he said, desperation sharpening his words. I almost laughed. Almost. I'm being precise, I said. There's a difference. I hung up before he could respond. An hour later, he showed up at the house. I watched through the security app as he paced the driveway, phone pressed to his ear, face twisted with disbelief. He tried the door. Locked. Tried again. Harder. That's when it hit him. The accounts. The silence. The absence. For the first time since I'd known him, Nathan wasn't in control of the timeline, and I wasn't waiting for his next move. I was already 3 steps ahead. The consequences didn't arrive all at once. They never do. They crept in through the cracks Nathan didn't think to seal. By the second morning, he realized the accounts weren't glitching. His debit card declined at a coffee shop he visited every day. Not because there was no money, because the joint access was frozen. He tried the credit line next. Same result. He called the bank, confident he could charm his way through. He couldn't. By noon, he was calling me again. I didn't answer. Instead, I forwarded everything to my attorney. His frantic voicemails, his increasingly erratic texts, each one time-stamped, each one proof. Meanwhile, Erin started to feel it too. She texted me first, a long message filled with apologies that never quite landed anywhere meaningful. I never wanted to hurt you. He told me things were basically over. I swear I didn't know. I didn't reply. An hour later, she called. I let it ring. Silence is loud when someone expects forgiveness. By midweek, the school grapevine had done what it always does, worked faster than the truth, but eventually arrived at it. Parents stopped smiling at Erin. Invitations went unanswered. She was quietly removed from a committee she'd chaired for 2 years. No announcement. Just absence. Nathan, on the other hand, tried to go louder. He emailed friends, family, anyone who might still answer. He framed it as a misunderstanding, a separation that had gotten out of hand. He painted himself as blindsided, betrayed by my sudden instability. The problem with rewriting history is that receipts don't care. One of his cousins forwarded me the message with a simple note. Is this true? I replied with a screenshot of the lease. No commentary. No explanation. Just fact. By Friday, his brother stopped returning his calls. His father, who had always valued reputation above comfort, asked for documents. All of them. Quietly. Nathan showed up again that evening. Not angry this time. Desperate. He waited outside the place Maya and I were staying, pacing the sidewalk like a man rehearsing a speech he no longer believed in. I watched from the window without opening the door. Please, he said through the glass. I just need to talk to you. I shook my head. You can't do this, he said, voice cracking. You're destroying everything. No, I replied through the door. You're just experiencing the cost. His phone buzzed. He looked down, frowned. I knew that look. Something else had gone wrong. Later that night, my attorney confirmed it. His attempt to move money between accounts had triggered a compliance review. Nothing illegal, yet, but enough to stall his access. Enough to make him nervous. Enough to slow him down. That same night, Erin's name disappeared from the lease portal. She didn't text me about that. She texted Nathan. I know because he forwarded it to me by accident. Meant for his lawyer. Sent in haste. I can't do this if everything is blowing up. This wasn't what you promised. The irony would have been funny if it hadn't been so predictable. By the weekend, Nathan's confidence had collapsed inward. He tried charm, then guilt, then fear. You're hurting Maya, he said in one voicemail. She needs her father. She needs honesty, I replied once, and peace. You can offer neither right now. I ended the call before he could respond. That night, I sat beside my daughter while she did homework at the kitchen counter. She was quieter than usual, but steady. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded. "Yeah, it's just weird. It won't always feel like this," I told her. "This is just the part where things fall apart so they can stop lying to us." She thought about that, then nodded again. Outside, Nathan sat alone in his car for nearly an hour, calling numbers that no longer answered. For the first time, the world he'd built without me was starting to collapse under its own weight. And he could feel it. That was when he made his next move. A desperate one. The notice came through his lawyer, formal and sanitized. Mandatory mediation prior to temporary orders. Neutral ground. Conference room. No audience. Nathan had always believed that if something mattered, it happened behind closed doors. That was his blind spot. The courthouse lobby wasn't closed. It was glass and marble and echoing footsteps. Reporters weren't there for us, but they were there. For zoning disputes, election filings, anything with a whiff of conflict. Parents from the school district passed through. So did two couples from our neighborhood. This was the artery of the city, and Nathan walked into it thinking it was a hallway. Erin came with him. That alone told me everything. She wore a tailored blazer, hair pinned just so, expression rehearsed into calm concern. The woman who'd once hovered at my kitchen island now hovered at his side, fingers grazing his sleeve like muscle memory. I waited until they were close enough to hear me breathe. "Nathan," I said. He turned, relief flashing across his face, then fading when he saw me. Not broken, not pleading, prepared. "Brooke," he said, lowering his voice. "We don't need to do this out here." I smiled. "You're right. We don't." Erin stiffened. "I think I should wait outside," she said quickly. "No," I replied, looking straight at her. "You're already here." A few heads turned. Someone slowed their walk. Nathan stepped in. "This is inappropriate." "Signing a lease behind your wife's back was inappropriate," I said evenly. "Standing next to her in public like this is just honest." Erin's jaw tightened. "Brooke, I didn't—" I raised a hand. "You don't need to explain anything to me." I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. Not thick, not dramatic, just enough. "Nathan," I said, "your lawyer requested financial disclosures. I've complied." I handed him a copy. He took it automatically, eyes scanning. Color drained from his face. "What is this?" he whispered. "An inventory," I said, "of assets tied to my inheritance. The ones you never disclosed when you applied for that lease." A murmur rippled nearby. Erin leaned over his shoulder, read a line, then another. Her grip on his arm loosened. "You told me this was clean," she said quietly. Nathan swallowed. "It is. It's just—" "Stop!" she snapped, louder than she meant to. A few people stopped outright now. She turned to me, eyes sharp. "You said you were separated." "I wasn't," I said. "And he wasn't." She looked back at him. Really looked. For the first time without his version in her ear. "You let me put my name on something that isn't even yours?" she asked. Nathan tried to recover. "Erin, this isn't the place." She stepped away from him. "I'm not doing this," she said, voice steady. "I didn't sign up to be collateral damage." She turned to me. "I'm sorry, but I'm out." Then she walked off, heels clicking, shoulders squared, not looking back. Nathan stood there alone. The quiet stretched. "This doesn't change anything," he said finally, forcing his voice to carry confidence it no longer owned. "You can't control the narrative." I tilted my head. "I don't need to." I reached into the folder and removed one last page. I held it up, not for him, but for the small cluster of onlookers who had gathered without realizing it. "This is the lease," I said calmly. "Signed while we were married, with marital funds, without disclosure." A woman near the elevator sucked in a breath. I handed the paper to Nathan. "You wanted to build a second life quietly," I said. "But you forgot one thing." He looked up at me. eyes glassy. What? I leaned in just enough for him, and everyone close enough, to hear. Silence isn't protection, it's permission. A beat. Phones came out. Someone whispered my name. Another whispered his. Nathan tried to speak, but the words tangled. He looked around, realizing too late that the room had shifted against him. The mediator opened the door and called our names. I didn't move. "You can go first," I said to Nathan. "You're used to that." He hesitated, then walked past me, shoulders hunched, eyes down. As I followed, I heard it, the murmur spreading behind us, the soft repetition of a story taking shape without his input. By the time the doors closed, the damage was done. And for the first time since the fundraiser, I knew something else with certainty. He wasn't just exposed. He was alone. Nathan tried to get ahead of it. That was his instinct. Control the story before it controlled him. He posted first, quietly at dawn, the way people do when they want sympathy without scrutiny. A measured statement. No names, no specifics. Words like misunderstanding, private matter, temporary separation. He framed himself as cooperative, respectful, blindsided by sudden decisions. By noon, the post had traction. Not the kind he wanted. People who knew us started asking questions, not publicly, but directly. Former colleagues, parents from school, a board member who'd once praised his professionalism. The same sentence kept coming up in different forms. "That's not what we're hearing." He doubled down. Another post. Longer. More polished. He leaned into concern for Maya, implied I was being unreasonable, emotionally reactive. He never lied outright. He just edited reality until it fit. I didn't respond. I waited. Because escalation isn't about volume, it's about timing. At 3:17 p.m., my attorney filed for temporary orders. Custody, exclusive use of the home, financial restraint. Everything clean. Everything documented. At 3:22, I emailed one person, a woman named Lena, who chaired the donor board at the school. Calm, discreet, respected. Subject line, for context. I attached 3 things: the lease, the timeline, proof of joint funds, no commentary, no accusations. At 3:41, Nathan's phone started vibrating again. By evening, the tone online shifted. Comments appeared under his posts. Subtle at first. Questions disguised as concern. "Didn't you just sign a lease while still married? This doesn't line up with what's being shared." He deleted one, then another. Screenshots spread anyway. Someone else did the work for me. A local real estate blog, nothing sensational, just industry gossip, posted a short piece about a prominent agent navigating a messy personal situation with potential legal overlap. They didn't name me. They didn't need to. The comment section filled in the blanks. Nathan tried calling. Over and over. When I didn't answer, he left a voicemail so frantic it barely sounded like him. "You're letting strangers decide our life," he said. "This is getting out of control." I listened once, then archived it. That night, a message landed in my inbox from someone I hadn't heard from in years. "I thought you should know. Erin's telling people she was misled." I didn't reply. The next morning, a mutual acquaintance sent me a link. Erin had deactivated her accounts. By lunchtime, the school issued a neutral statement about maintaining a respectful community environment. Nathan's name wasn't included, but his absence from upcoming events was noticeable, quietly enforced. He tried one last pivot, an email to extended family, framed as accountability, apology adjacent, still vague, still careful to avoid admitting anything that could be used against him. His father replied to everyone, "I've reviewed the documents. This behavior is unacceptable. I won't be involved further." That one sentence traveled faster than anything else. By the end of the week, Nathan's credibility had collapsed in layers. Not with shouting, with distance, with silence, with people choosing not to engage. He showed up at my attorney's office unannounced, demanding a meeting. He paced the lobby like a man waiting for a verdict. When I finally spoke to him, briefly through counsel, he looked hollow. "You planned this," he said, voice raw. "I prepared," I replied. "There's a difference." "You're destroying my reputation." "No," I said. "You built it on something unstable. I just stopped holding it up." He shook his head, hands trembling. "What do you want?" I thought about that. What I wanted wasn't revenge in the way he understood it. I didn't need him humiliated for sport. I needed the truth to stand on its own, without his edits. "I want this finished," I said. "And I want you to stop pretending you're the victim of consequences." He stared at me, finally understanding. The story had escaped him, and there was nothing he could do to pull it back. The paperwork did what emotions never could. Once the temporary orders were in place, the unraveling accelerated. Custody first, primary residence with me, school continuity protected, no relocation without written consent. Nathan's objections landed flat, not because he didn't care, but because care isn't evidence. Money came next. The forensic accountant didn't raise her voice once. She didn't need to. She walked us through spreadsheets, transfers, shell accounts Nathan had used casually for years, assuming complexity equaled invisibility. It didn't. It just meant there was more to trace. The lease showed up again, this time as a liability. Marital funds, undisclosed obligation, personal use. Nathan's lawyer tried to argue intent. The judge didn't entertain it. Intent doesn't move money. Signatures do. By the end of the second week, access to several accounts was formally restricted. Not frozen, controlled. Every withdrawal reviewed, every transfer documented. The lifestyle Nathan had built on flexibility suddenly ran on approvals. He hated that more than anything. The house followed. My mother's contribution mattered. So did the timing. So did the fact that the property had appreciated sharply in the last 3 years while Nathan's income fluctuated. The math favored stability. It favored me. Nathan moved out officially, not to the apartment, that option had collapsed, but into a short-term rental on the edge of town. Furnished, temporary, expensive in the way only impermanence can be. His family fractured quietly. His brother stopped speaking to him altogether after reviewing the financial disclosures. His sister sent me a message I didn't expect. I wish I'd seen this sooner. No defense, no justification, just distance. The worst blow came from his father. They met privately. No lawyers, no raised voices. Just documents laid out on a table and a question asked only once. Why didn't you tell the truth? Nathan didn't have an answer that held. By the end of that conversation, his father withdrew financial backing from a joint investment they'd shared for years. No argument, no appeal. Reputation, once lost, doesn't get renegotiated. Erin faded fast. Without Nathan's assurances, the situation she'd stepped into became radioactive. The lease termination penalty landed on her. So did the whispers. She took a leave from work, then another. Eventually, her role was quietly restructured into something smaller, less visible. I didn't follow her story closely. I didn't need to. Maya adjusted in ways that surprised me. Lighter, more open. The tension she'd absorbed for months drained from her posture once the truth stopped pretending to be normal. She didn't ask about her father often. When she did, I answered without poison. He made choices, I told her. Now he's dealing with them. Nathan tried to negotiate directly once. A late-night call. No anger left, just exhaustion. I've lost everything, he said. I didn't correct him. You haven't, I replied. You've lost access. Silence stretched. I don't recognize my life, he said. That's what happens when you build one that can't survive daylight, I answered. He didn't argue. The final filings moved quickly after that. Division of assets. Retirement accounts split. Equity secured. No scorched earth. Just precision. Clean lines where there used to be blurred trust. When the judge signed the orders, Nathan didn't look relieved. He looked reduced. He walked out of the courthouse alone. No partner. No family waiting. No phone lighting up with reassurance. Just a man facing the math of his decisions. I stood with Maya on the steps, sunlight warm on our backs, documents tucked neatly into my bag. This wasn't victory. It was closure with teeth. And there was only one thing left to do. The last meeting wasn't court-ordered. There were no clerks, no microphones, no witnesses hovering for spectacle. Nathan asked for it through his lawyer, then followed up himself when she advised against it. "I just need to see her once," he said. "Please." I agreed on one condition: neutral ground, limited time, no negotiation. Closure, not discussion. We met at a quiet cafe near the courthouse. Late afternoon. Sunlight cutting through the windows in clean, unforgiving lines. I arrived first and chose a table near the back. Not hidden, just contained. I wanted space to leave when I was done. Nathan walked in 5 minutes late. He looked older. Not dramatically, not tragically. Just worn down by gravity and consequence. His jacket hung looser than it used to. His confidence had thinned into something brittle. When he saw me, he stopped short, like he hadn't expected me to look the way I did. Calm, composed, finished. "Brooke?" he said quietly, sliding into the chair across from me. "Thank you for coming." I nodded once. "You have 20 minutes. He exhaled, rubbing his hands together. "I don't even know where to start." "That's not my problem anymore," I replied. He flinched. "I deserve that." We sat in silence for a moment, the kind that used to make me uncomfortable. Now it felt earned. "I never meant for it to go this far," he said finally. I studied him. The man who had once narrated our future like it was a pitch deck. "You signed a lease," I said, "with joint money, with another woman, while living in my house and eating meals I cooked. That's not an accident. That's a series of decisions." He nodded slowly. "I know." "I don't think you do," I said. "Not fully." He leaned forward. "I lost everything, Brooke. My family. My career momentum. My home. I'm barely holding things together. I didn't rush to fill the silence that followed. "Why did you want to see me?" I asked. His voice dropped. "Because I need you to know. I loved you." I felt the faintest echo of something old. It passed quickly. "You loved the version of me that made your life easier," I said. "The one who absorbed the inconvenience so you didn't have to." "That's not fair," he said, then stopped himself. "No, it is." He swallowed. "I thought I could compartmentalize. Keep things separate." "You didn't compartmentalize," I replied. "You replaced." His eyes filled, not dramatically, just enough to make his voice catch. "I thought I could come back," he said. "That it would all reset." I leaned back in my chair. "That's the part you still don't understand. There was no reset. You crossed a line that erased access." He shook his head. "I'd do anything to fix this." "That's not true," I said gently. "You would have done anything to avoid consequences. Fixing it would have required honesty months ago." He looked down at the table. "I'm alone." "Yes," I said. "You are." He looked up, startled. Not by cruelty, but by certainty. "I'm not saying that to hurt you," I continued. "I'm saying it because you keep confusing loneliness with loss. You didn't lose me. You forfeited me." The words landed hard. I watched him absorb them without deflecting this time. "What do you want from me?" he asked. I checked my watch. "You have 8 minutes." He let out a breath that sounded like surrender. "I want forgiveness." I considered that. "Forgiveness isn't something you request like a favor," I said. "It's something that happens when the injured party no longer needs anger to protect themselves." "And?" he asked quietly. "And I don't feel angry," I said. "I feel finished." His shoulders sagged. "I need you to understand something," I added. "This wasn't revenge for me. It was restoration. I didn't dismantle your life. I reclaimed mine." Tears slipped down his face then. He didn't wipe them away. "I don't recognize myself," he said. That's between you and whoever you become next, I replied. It's not my responsibility to rebuild you. He nodded, slowly. Is there any chance? No, I said without hesitation. And asking that tells me this meeting is over. I stood, picking up my bag. Brooke, he said, voice breaking. I'm sorry. I paused. Not because I needed to, but because endings deserve clarity. I believe you're sorry, I said. I just don't need it anymore. I met his eyes one last time. You taught me something important, I continued. That loyalty isn't proven by promises. It's proven by what you protect when no one's watching. I stepped back. This is where you stop reaching for me, I said, and where I walk forward without you. Then I turned and left. Outside, the light felt different. Not brighter, just honest. And for the first time since the night everything broke open, I didn't feel like I was surviving the aftermath. I felt free. A year later, my life doesn't look dramatic from the outside, and that's exactly how I know it's real. Mornings are quiet now, not empty, intentional. I wake up before Maya, make coffee, sit at the kitchen table that once felt like a stage set for someone else's performance. The house is still ours, legally, emotionally, fully. The walls no longer feel like they're listening for lies. Maya is taller, calmer. She laughs more easily. The tension she carried for so long, absorbing moods, measuring silences, has dissolved into something sturdier. Trust, maybe. Or clarity. She knows what happened. She also knows what didn't. She knows I didn't stay. That matters more than any lesson I could have taught her with words. Work shifted too. Not overnight, not magically, but decisively. I accepted a leadership role I'd once turned down, negotiated terms I would have previously softened, and stopped apologizing for taking up space. Confidence isn't loud when it's earned. It's quiet and immovable. I travel occasionally now. Not to escape, but to expand. New cities, new conversations, new perspectives that don't require me to explain my past before I'm allowed to exist in the present. Nathan hasn't tried to contact me again. I hear about him occasionally, the way you hear about a former coworker. Detached. Informational. He's still renting. Still rebuilding. Still explaining himself to rooms that no longer lean in when he speaks. He's not ruined. He's irrelevant. And that distinction matters. I don't wish him harm. I don't wish him healing either. Healing implies shared concern. What I feel is neutral. The kind of neutrality that only comes when something no longer has power over you. The woman who signed that lease beside his name? She moved away. New job. New circle. Clean slate built on someone else's debris. I don't follow her story. It doesn't intersect with mine. What does stay with me is the moment everything changed. Not the confrontation, not the exposure, but the decision. The moment I stopped asking why and started asking what now. That's where power lives, not in outrage, not in punishment, but in choosing yourself without permission. People sometimes ask how I stayed so calm, how I didn't fall apart. The truth is, I did, just not in public and not for long. I fell apart privately, briefly, then I reorganized. Because grief doesn't require collapse. It requires honesty. And honesty, once you let it in, rearranges everything. I don't define my life by betrayal anymore. It's not the headline. It's the footnote that explains why I refuse to live halfway, why I don't negotiate boundaries, why I don't confuse access with intimacy. Love, I've learned, isn't proven by how long someone stays. It's proven by how carefully they handle what's entrusted to them. I trusted. He exploited. I adapted. He collapsed. That's not vengeance. That's cause and effect. On weekends, Maya and I cook together. We argue about music. We plan trips. We exist without bracing for impact. There's laughter in the house now that doesn't end abruptly when a door opens. That alone tells me everything I need to know. Sometimes, late at night, I think about the woman I was before all of this. The one who believed stability meant endurance, who mistook silence for safety. I don't judge her. She did the best she could with the information she had. But I don't miss her, because the woman I am now doesn't need to be chosen. She chooses, and she walks forward without looking back, not because the past doesn't matter, but because it no longer defines the direction. Betrayal took something from me once. What it gave me back was freedom, and I intend to keep it. Thank you for staying with me until the end. If this story hit close to home, click the hype button so more people who need it can find it. Share your thoughts or your own experience in the comments. I read them. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more stories about truth, boundaries, and reclaiming your power.